Welcome to another movie plot and enjoy the memories. It takes place in Los Angeles where reporter Sadie Blake's being told by her editor that her story just made the front page. A member of a blood-obsessed cult gave her the interview and her co-worker Ethan learns the address of what's called a feeding party from their website. We jump to a young woman named Kaitlyn arriving at the location, but her friend Tricia waits inside the car as she doesn't feel comfortable entering. At the door, Kaitlyn's greeted by Rourke, but after 45 minutes of being alone outside, Tricia enters the house to go searching for her friend. The whole place is empty except for the cellar where she finds two blood-covered vampires feeding on the still-living Kaitlyn while Rourke watches the door. Running away and hiding in a closet, Tricia's eventually located and the two girls' bodies are discovered dumped in an alley by police. She was the daughter of the distraught detective Clyde while also being the same rookie member of the cult that leaked Sadie the interview. The reporter visits the abandoned house where Tricia said that the feeding party was going to take place, hoping to find any lead on the girl's death. The vampires have left a mess of blood in the basement, and when Sadie checks the bathtub she sees something that makes her run away. She drives to Ethan's apartment but finds the place already completely trashed and is confronted when trying to exit by Rourke. He uses her own pepper spray against her and delivers Sadie to be questioned at the home of the elderly wheelchair-bound vampire Mr. Harrison. He's catering for Eve, who was feeding on Kaitlyn the other night, as well as their leader Bishop and his loyal servant Poe. Bishop wants to know what Tricia told her and uses Ethan's head for intimidation, but Sadie denies knowing anything other than the address of the feeding party. Believing her story, he and Eve take her to a bedroom where they slit Sadie's throat and drain her blood while having their way with her body. She's found just like the others, discarded in a dumpster by Clyde, but sometime later Sadie wakes up on a slab in the morgue and has to kick her way out of the drawer. Seeing that she no longer casts a reflection in the mirror, Sadie steals a set of hospital scrubs and makes her way to a homeless shelter for the night. Shaking due to her lack of feeding, she begrudgingly smothers an old man to feed on his blood before being noticed by a homeless child and running away. She calls her grieving mother to let her know she's okay, but her sister hangs up the phone thinking that she's just talking to ghosts. Finally had enough, Sadie throws herself from a bridge into traffic but learns that she's incapable of dying traditionally when getting nursed back to health by Arturo. When she's fully recovered, he provides her with a large jug of blood to prevent her feeding on humans and explains that he wants to get revenge on the vampires also. He gives her a handy crossbow and teaches her to aim for the hearts of the weakest vamps first, leaving only the strongest Bishop until last. After tracking down Rourke to the hotel that he's staying at, she squeezes his room number out of the clerk and finds the vampire feasting on his latest victim. Without killing him, Sadie shoots him out of the window with a bolt and runs downstairs to question him for the next vampire's location. Once he suggests a place called the Red Angel, Sadie puts one in his heart and drives across town to find Eve luring a sailor into the ladies' room. She's about to slit his throat when Sadie shows up just in the nick of time to save his life and question Eve about the other vampires. The manipulator claims that she deliberately let Sadie live and that her mentor's a vampire who's using her to take out the rival leader. Whether true or not, she puts up no resistance as Sadie does what she came there to do and puts a bolt in Eve's heart. Elsewhere, the businessman Lloyd connects with the beautiful callgirl Colette and she prepares to leave with him. Suddenly Sadie intervenes to take the girl away from Lloyd and they both walk into Harrison's unguarded mansion. The girl's made to get undressed, but when Sadie tells her to wash her hands in the shower, Colette's trapped inside and strung up by her feet. Mr. Harrison enters, having made a deal with Sadie for the address of Bishop, but she kills him anyway and releases the surely confused Colette. Sadie tells her to find a better job and kicks her to the curb before getting the shakes and passing out on the bed from not feeding for so long. Soon after, Colette's picked up by the police wandering down the highway and explains the whole story, including where to find Sadie. Clyde's on the trail of his daughter's murderer when he learns about the attack and visits Harrison's house to investigate. Sadie wakes at the sound of the doorbell and makes a quick escape before the police arrive and turn the place into a crime scene. Clyde's been drinking more since the death of his daughter, so Detective Easton tries to send him home, but he refuses to drop the case. Meanwhile, Sadie's on the way to Bishop's farm when remembering Arturo's warning that she must be stronger to defeat him. Since she's run out of blood, Sadie picks up a hitchhiker to resupply, and luckily Alex tells her about him and how he has no family that would miss him. She pulls over to the side of the road and pretends to come onto him, but instead slits his throat and drinks his blood. She exits the car and breaks down in tears before collecting herself and beginning to dig a grave for the body in the woods. Meanwhile, at Bishop's place, his latest victim Jenny's being flattered by the rich handsome stranger. He says outright that he's going to use her for murder, but Jenny just thinks it's a joke and allows Bishop to lead her into his bedroom. Moments later, Sadie arrives crossbow in hand but finds the place empty and Jenny's blood-covered body lying on a bed. Soon Poe enters to clean up the mess, so Sadie points her crossbow at him and demands to know where Bishop is, but he puts up a better fight than she expected. He tries to suffocate her with a shower curtain, but she knocks him off and continues asking where his boss is. He stabs her in the foot, getting him kicked downstairs, where Poe still doesn't reveal Bishop's location, so she puts a bolt through his heart. While tending to her wounds, Sadie answers Poe's phone when he receives a call from Bishop off a telephone from the nearby bar. She warns him that they both die tonight, then drives to his last known location to ask the bartender what he heard about Bishop. He knows nothing, so she leaves him her number on a $100 bill, asking him to call her with any information he remembers. When returning to her car, Sadie's confronted by Taylor as a distraction while being knocked out from behind by a second attacker, Dwayne. They stuff her body into the trunk of their car, but while Taylor's taking her to Bishop, she awakens and breaks out of the moving vehicle. She steals it and reverses over the henchman, breaking his leg and leaving him unable to move in the middle of the street. He spills the beans on Bishop's location and says he was just hoping to meet some cute goth chicks at the vampires party, so Sadie lets Taylor live. Meanwhile, Clyde's been having repetitive nightmares of his daughter covered in blood when he wakes to a call about Jenny and Poe. They have the supposed killer's license plate on recording this time, but Dwayne's driving Sadie's car, so he's picked up by the local police instead. They find Sadie's crossbow inside, so Clyde dismisses the officer and gives Dwayne a beating until he reveals that he came from the nearby bar. Sadie gets the call from the bartender to say that Bishop's arrived, but when she returns, it's just Clyde and he's brought along her bag. She recognizes him as a detective but refuses to answer any questions and takes her bag, only to find out that he replaced her crossbow with wrenches. When she walks back inside, Clyde arrests her and pulls a gun to demand to know if she killed his daughter. She doesn't answer, so he throws her in the back seat of his car, where Sadie sees a photo of Tricia and explains that she's trying to kill the man who murdered her. He looks at her in the rearview mirror to reveal that she's a vampire, but still doesn't believe what he's seeing, so she slips her cuffs and chokes him. She gets the keys to the cuffs and her crossbow back, but as she's walking away, Clyde jumps out of the car and shoots her in the back when she fails to stop. To the detective's surprise, she's unharmed, so Clyde takes Sadie back to her motel room to remove the slugs from her back. He apologizes for shooting her as he still needed more proof, but when Sadie passes out, she wakes up handcuffed as Clyde's prisoner. She offers him a deal to let her kill Bishop, and then the detective can kill her without resistance, and there will be 2 less vampires in the world. He agrees to avenge his daughter, and when the sun goes down, they scope out Bishop's farmhouse before preparing to go inside. Sadie's given a gun and gives Clyde a letter to deliver to her mother after the deal's done, as she didn't get to say goodbye. Dwayne's made his way there after being let go by the police and is made by Bishop to describe the girl that Taylor was supposed to be bringing. He describes a young Asian woman leading Bishop to rip out Dwayne's throat and get prepared for Sadie's arrival. The pair find Dwayne's body in one of the stables and split up to look for Bishop, only for Clyde to locate his daughter in a cage. He releases Tricia, but when Sadie walks up, it causes the vampire to pick up her father's gun and point it at him as he stands between them. She says that Bishop's her father now, then shoots Clyde in the chest and flees into the basement, dodging Sadie's bolts. She follows her down and finds that the place is a meat locker containing several humans drained of their blood, where Tricia fires back at Sadie. She's hit in the leg by a crossbow bolt but refuses to give up Bishop's location, so Sadie shoots her in the heart with another. Bishop appears, but Sadie's crossbow jams and she's forced to listen to him try convince her to join him before overpowering her and bashing her head against a wall. She's strung up just like the rest of the meatbags, and Bishop prepares to drain her blood while berating her for not accepting the gift that she's been given. He slits her throat for a second time and leaves her to bleed out, with her last thought being of Arturo's motivation to keep going on. Just then Clyde enters, having been wearing a bulletproof vest, and wraps Sadie up in his jacket before carrying her out of the stables. When Bishop reappears, he beats Clyde around the place and gets shot multiple times, but he just keeps on fighting like it didn't happen. He's about to finish Clyde when Sadie notices her bolt that missed Tricia still in the wall and pulls herself back to her feet to retrieve it. She draws it, distracting Bishop and allowing Clyde to escape and reverse him for Sadie to stake in the heart with the bolt. When he dies at last, the exhausted Sadie collapses and reminds the detective to kill her, preventing any more people from being fed on. Police arrive on the scene and begin to converge on the barn as Clyde reluctantly raises the bolt above his head and plunges it into Sadie. For the second time, Sadie's put into a body bag and taken to the morgue, where once again she kicks open the door. And the movie ends.